Commander Eric Davis looked out the large window of the UES horizon. Stars stretched into the distance. This was the first time humans had gone so far from Earth to fight for money. Eric touched the Earth patch on his uniform. His finger traced the blue and green symbol that all Earthborn units wore. The ship hummed around him. 50 soldiers prepared their gear in the levels below. Eric grew up in a small town in Kentucky. He only joined the military to pay for college. Now, he led the IDAR, first human mercenary group hired by aliens. "Commander, we will reach the drop zone in 20 minutes, said Lieutenant Olivia Grant. Her hands moved quickly across the control panel. The blue light of the screens made her face glow in the dim bridge. Eric nodded. "Thank you, Lieutenant." He pressed a button on his wrist. His voice would now reach all soldiers on the ship. "All Earthborn units prepare for arrival. Remember why we are here. The Alaxians are paying us to keep peace, not to start a war." The Alaxians were tall, blue-skinned aliens. They had hired humans to help them in a border fight with the Valaran Collective. Neither alien group knew much about humans. They thought Earth was just a small, not very advanced planet. The payment was good, though. The aliens would give Earth rare metals that would help humans build better technology. What the aliens did not know was that humans had an advantage. Earth had high gravity. It was filled with dangers, animals that could kill, weather that destroyed. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years. They knew how to adapt, how to survive, how to win against bad odds. Eric walked to his private room. He picked up a small photo. It showed a woman and a young boy. His family. He missed them. Sergeant Joe Miller knocked on the open door. "Sir, the team is ready for your speech." Eric put the photo down. "I'm on my way." The main hold of the ship was packed with soldiers. Men and women in dark gray uniforms stood in neat lines. Their faces showed no fear, only focus. These were Earth's best. Eric stepped onto a small platform. The room went quiet. "In a few minutes, we land on Boundary Station Alpha," Eric said. His voice was strong and clear. "The Alaxians think they hired us because we were cheap. They don't know Earth's history. They don't know what we can do." He looked at the faces watching him. Some were young on their first mission. Others had lines around their eyes from years of fighting. "We are not here to show off. We are here to do a job. But if anyone tries to test us..." Eric paused. "They will learn why Earthborn units are different." The soldiers stood straighter. Pride showed in their eyes. Lieutenant Grant's voice came over the speakers. 5 minutes to landing. Check your gear one last time," Eric ordered. "Remember your training. Remember Earth." The soldiers moved to their positions. Eric watched as they helped each other with final checks of their suits and weapons. Humans were good at working together. It was how they survived on Earth. The ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of the small moon where Boundary Station Alpha sat. The station was built into the side of a crater. It marked the edge of Alaxian space. "Sir," said Corporal Ryan Jacobs, "do you think the Valarans will try something?" Eric checked his own weapon. "They might. Intelligence says they've hired Drazak mercenaries." Ryan's eyes widened. Everyone had heard of the Drazak. They were feared across 3 galaxies. They had metal exoskeletons that made them stronger than 10 humans. They had computer chips in their brains that helped them think faster than any human could. "Don't worry," Eric said, seeing the young man's face. "They may be stronger. They may be faster. But they've never fought humans before." The ship landed with a soft thud. The door hissed open. Bright light flooded in. Outside, a group of Alaxians waited. Their blue skin reflected the light of the nearby sun. They wore fancy robes with symbols of rank. Behind them stood their own soldiers in shiny armor. Eric stepped out first. The gravity was lighter than Earth's. He had to be careful not to jump. By accident, an Alaxian stepped forward. It was nearly 7 feet tall. "I am Diplomat Zorkel. Welcome to Boundary Station Alpha." The alien's voice was high and musical. "Commander Eric Davis, United Earth Defense Force," Eric replied. "My team is ready to begin security operations." The Alaxian tilted its long head. "Your species' reputation is limited, but your price was acceptable. We will provide quarters and station maps. Eric kept his face neutral. Thank you, Diplomat Zorkel. We won't need much space. My soldiers are used to rough conditions. The Alaxian seemed surprised by this. As you wish. The station has detected no Valeran activity for 30 cycles. Your presence is merely a precaution. Eric nodded, but he didn't believe it would be that easy. His years of experience told him to be ready. We'll set up our command center and begin patrols immediately. As the human soldiers filed out of the ship, the Alaxian guards watched with curiosity. The humans carried less equipment than most mercenary groups. Their weapons looked simple compared to the energy rifles the Alaxians held. Lieutenant Grant joined Eric. The locals don't seem impressed, she whispered. Good, Eric replied. Being underestimated is an advantage. The Earthborn units moved, with discipline as they set up their base in the section given to them. They worked quickly, setting sensors and communication lines. Within hours, they had transformed the empty rooms into a working military base. Eric stood at the main window of their new command center. He could see the stars and the curved edge of the moon. Somewhere out there, the Valerans were watching, planning. They would come. He knew it. Sergeant Miller brought him a cup of coffee. Real coffee, brought from Earth. What do you think, sir? Joe asked. How long until we see action? Eric sipped the hot drink. Not long, maybe a few weeks. The Valerans won't be able to resist testing us. And when they do? Eric smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. Then they'll learn what we already know. Earth might be a small dot in the galaxy, but it raised warriors like no other world. The coffee was bitter and strong, just like the truth. The aliens thought they had hired simple mercenaries. They would soon discover they had unleashed something the galaxy had never seen before. Earthborn units. The name would soon make mercenaries fall silent with fear. 3 weeks passed on Boundary Station Alpha. Major Samantha Kelly sat in the small room that served as the human break area. She sipped her coffee. It wasn't real coffee, just a synthetic version made from local plants. But it was hot and bitter, good enough. The station was quiet. Too quiet, Samantha thought. The Alaxians moved around doing their jobs. They mostly ignored the humans now. At first, they had been curious, watching the Earthborn units train and patrol. Now they just seemed bored. Samantha didn't feel bored. She felt like something was coming. She had been a soldier for 15 years. She knew how to sense danger. Her watch beeped. Time for the daily report. She tapped her comm unit. Major Kelly to Commander Davis. All sectors clear. Acknowledged, Major, Eric's voice replied. Maintain standard patrol patterns. Samantha finished her coffee. She was about to stand when the station shook. A loud boom echoed through the metal walls. Red lights began to flash. The alarm sounded, high and urgent. She was on her feet in seconds, grabbing her weapon from the table. Her fingers moved automatically, checking the gun even as she ran for the door. The station shook again, stronger this time. Samantha had to hold the wall to stay up. The station's computer voice spoke over the speakers. Warning. Unauthorized ships detected. Hull breach in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate to safe zones. Samantha saw Alaxians running past her in the hallway. Their blue faces looked pale with fear. They pushed past each other, heading for the escape pods. She tapped her comm. Kelly, here. We have a situation. I see it, Eric responded. Valeran assault ships. They're targeting our section first. Implement contingency Bravo. Samantha nodded, though Eric couldn't see her. This is Major Kelly, she said, switching to the channel all humans could hear. Earthborn units implement contingency Bravo. I repeat, contingency Bravo. Across the station, the 100 human peacekeepers responded. They had practiced this. Unlike the panicking Alaxians, the humans moved with purpose. Some secured important areas like the power core and life support systems. Others set up defensive positions at key points where enemies might enter. A small team began setting traps in the hallways. Samantha ran to the command center. Inside, Eric stood looking at a holographic map of the station. Red dots showed where the Valeran ships had attached to the station's hull. 3 entry points, Eric said when he saw her. They're coming in through maintenance airlocks. Lieutenant Grant worked at a computer. I've locked down as many doors as I can, but they're overriding the systems. How many? Samantha asked. Eric's face was grim. Sensors show at least 200 boarding. Intelligence says they're Drazak mercenaries. The room went quiet. The Drazak were famous. They had metal exoskeletons that made them incredibly strong. They could punch through walls. Their neural implants let them process information faster than any human. They had fought on 100 worlds and never lost. Well, Samantha said with a small smile, there's a first time for everything. Eric nodded. Take Squad 3 and hold the East Junction. That's where they'll try to reach the command systems. Samantha saluted and left. In the hallway, she met 6 human soldiers already in full combat gear. Sergeant Paul Weber was checking his rifle. Drazak mercenaries, she told them. At least 200. Paul whistled. Odds are only 2 to 1 against us? And here I thought, this would be difficult. The soldiers laughed. This was how humans dealt with fear. They joked about it. They have exoskeletons and neural implants, Samantha reminded them, but they've never fought humans before. Let's show them what Earthborn units can do. They moved through the station quickly. The East Junction was a large open area where 4 hallways met. It was a good place to defend with cover and multiple escape routes if needed. Set up here, Samantha ordered. Carlos, Ryan, take positions up high. Everyone else, find cover and prepare for close combat. The soldiers moved. Into position. No wasted motion, no fear. Just focus. They didn't have to wait long. The sound came first. Heavy metal footsteps. Then voices. Speaking a language the humans didn't understand. The universal translators in their ears turned it into English. No resistance so far. These primitives run like all the others. Remember, the commander wants prisoners for questioning. Samantha signaled her team to hold position. Let the enemy come to them. The first Drazak appeared at the far end of the hallway. It was huge, nearly 8 feet tall in its metal exoskeleton. Its natural skin was gray and leathery. Red eyes glowed in a flat face. It carried an energy rifle, bigger than some of the human soldiers. More Drazak followed, 10, then 20. They moved with confidence, not bothering to check corners or take cover. Wait for my signal, Samantha whispered into her comm. The Drazak moved into the junction. More were coming behind them. Now, Samantha shouted. The humans opened fire. Bullets hit the metal exoskeletons, most bouncing off. But some found weak spots in the joints. 3 Drazak fell in the first volley. The others reacted quickly, too quickly for normal enemies. Their neural implants processed the threat and responded. They took cover and returned fire. Energy bolts hit the walls around. The humans melting metal. Move to second positions, Samantha ordered. The humans fell back to their next defensive line. This wasn't retreat. It was strategy. They had prepared these positions carefully. As the Drazak followed, they triggered the first trap. A section of ceiling collapsed, crushing 2 aliens beneath heavy metal. The battle became intense. Energy, weapons against bullets. Superior alien technology against human determination. Private Luis Gomez was hit. An energy bolt burned through his shoulder. He didn't stop firing. Flanking left, called Carlos from his high position. Samantha saw it. 5 Drazak were moving around to attack from the side. Weber with me! She and Paul ran to intercept. The hallway was narrow here. The Drazak couldn't use their numbers advantage. The first alien rounded the corner. Samantha fired at its legs. The bullets dented the metal but didn't stop it. The Drazak raised its weapon. Paul threw something small and round. It stuck to the alien's chest. The Drazak looked down just as the explosive device detonated. The blast knocked it backward into its companions. Human explosives are primitive but effective, Paul said with a grin. The fight continued for hours. The humans used every trick they had learned from centuries of warfare on Earth. They set ambushes. They used the station itself as a weapon, cutting power to sections, changing gravity levels, venting atmosphere in some areas. Slowly, the Drazak realized this wasn't a normal fight. These weren't normal enemies. The humans didn't retreat when outnumbered. They adapted to Drazak tactics faster than expected. Most disturbing of all, they fought harder when their comrades fell. 6 hours after the attack began, a bloodied Drazak lieutenant returned to the Valeran command ship. General Zexthar, the Valeran commander, was not pleased. "Report," he demanded. The lieutenant's exoskeleton was damaged. One arm didn't work. "The humans, they fight differently." "Explain." "They don't flee when outgunned. They adapt to our tactics faster than our combat systems can adjust, and the lieutenant hesitated. "They seem to get stronger when their friends die." On the station, Major Kelly counted their losses. 12 humans dead, many more injured. But they held the station. The Drazak had retreated, leaving their dead and wounded behind. Even better, they had left intact weapons and armor that the humans could study. "What's our next move?" Sergeant Weber asked. Blood ran down his arm from a wound he hadn't bothered to treat yet. Samantha looked at the captured Drazak equipment. "Now we show them why you don't corner Earthborn units." Word spread fast across the galaxy. On 100 worlds, mercenaries gathered in bars and trading posts to share stories. The tale of Boundary Station Alpha was told again and again, how 100 humans had fought off 200 elite Drazak warriors, how they had used the station itself as a weapon, how they kept fighting even when wounded. 6 months after the battle, Commander Eric Davis stood in a large room on Earth. The United Earth Defense Council sat at a long table. These 5 men and women controlled Earth's military forces. They watched as Eric showed them videos from the campaign. "The Alaxians have tripled our payment," Eric said. He pointed to charts showing rare metals and advanced technology. "And 6 other species have asked to hire Earthborn units." Frank Rodriguez, a council member with gray hair and serious eyes, leaned forward. "I understand we've gained something more valuable than payment." Eric nodded. "Fear. Just mentioning human involvement now makes mercenary companies think twice about taking contracts against our allies. 3 border disputes have been settled peacefully once we announced we would send troops." "And our losses?" asked Diane Patterson. She was the oldest council member. Her dark skin was wrinkled from years in the sun. Eric's face became serious. 43 dead across all battles. Each one taught us more about enemy weapons and tactics. We've taken apart the captured Drazak equipment. Our scientists are already building improved versions. After the meeting, Eric met with his officers in a secure room. Major Kelly, Lieutenant Grant, and Sergeant Weber sat around a table with maps and reports. "The council approved expansion of our program," Eric told them. "We'll have 5 ships instead of 1, 500 soldiers instead of 100. "Will that be enough?" Olivia Grant asked. "The galaxy is a big place." "It's not about numbers," Samantha Kelly said. She touched a scar on her face from the battle. "It's about reputation. Every victory makes the next one easier." Paul Weber nodded. "The Drazak have fought for 300 years. They never expected to lose. Now they avoid any contract where they might face humans." Eric looked at his team. They had changed in the past 6 months, harder, more confident. "What we've learned is this. Most species evolved toward specialization. The Drazak are strong. The Alaxians are smart, but humans remained adaptable. We can fight in any environment. We can use any weapon, and most importantly, we're willing to die for tactical advantage. That's what scares them the most," Samantha said quietly. "Not that we're better fighters, but that we're willing to sacrifice in ways they find insane." 1 year later, Earthborn units had been deployed to 3 sectors of the galaxy. Their reputation grew with each impossible victory. Stories became legends, each one more incredible than the last. On the desert world of Carrack Prime, 15 humans led by Captain Alex Martinez fought against the Black Crest Mercenary Legion. Over 200 of the galaxy's most feared killers surrounded the human squad. The battle lasted 2 days. When it ended, the Black Crest fled, leaving behind their equipment and wounded. Only 7 humans survived. but they made sure every mercenary group in the sector received video of the battle. In the asteroid mines of Sector 7, 30 humans held off a pirate fleet for a week. They used the mines as a weapon, collapsing tunnels, on enemy forces and setting traps with mining explosives. On the ocean planet Hydra 4, humans fought underwater against aquatic species. They modified their equipment to work in deep water. They learned to use ocean currents as weapons. With each battle, the legend grew. Earthborn units never retreated. They adapted to any situation. They used enemy technology against them. And they always made sure the galaxy knew what happened. Back on Earth, Commander Davis, now Admiral Davis, sat in his office. He looked at reports from across the galaxy. The Alaxian ambassador had just left. They wanted to hire more human troops. "Enter," Davis called when someone knocked on his door. Major Kelly walked in. She looked tired. She had just returned from a mission in the outer sectors. "You wanted to see me, sir?" she asked. "Sit down, Samantha." Eric pointed to a chair. "How was the deployment?" "Successful. The Juraxians backed down as soon as our ship entered orbit. No fighting required." Eric smiled. "That's becoming more common. Our reputation does the work for us." Samantha nodded. "The soldiers are almost disappointed. They train for months, then the enemy surrenders before they fire a shot." "Peace through fear," Eric said. "Not what we expected when we started, but effective." On his desk was a small hologram. It showed Earth, a tiny blue planet in the vast darkness of space. Once humans had been confined to that small world. Now the galaxy knew their name, feared it. "I've been thinking about what makes us different," Eric said. "Why humans succeeded where other mercenaries failed. And most species evolved in safe environments, mild climates, few predators, stable societies. But Earth," he touched the hologram, "Earth tried to kill us every day. Storms, earthquakes, predators, disease. And when nature wasn't trying to kill us, we tried to kill each other." Samantha leaned back in her chair. "We're survivors. More than that, we're adaptable. When the Drazak fight, they rely on strength and technology. When the Alaxians fight, they use strategy and numbers. But humans, we use whatever works. We change our tactics. We learn from every battle." "The Council wants to expand again," Erica continued. 10 ships, 1,000 soldiers will be the most expensive mercenary force in the galaxy, but everyone will pay." "Because they're afraid of us?" Eric shook his head. "Because they're afraid of facing us. There's a difference." In a bar on the edge of known space, a group of mercenaries from different species sat around a table. They were planning a raid on a mining colony. "The security forces are minimal," said a 4-armed Juraxian. "Just local militia. Easy pickings." "What about response times for reinforcements?" asked a tall, thin alien with pale skin. "The nearest military base is 3 days away. We'll be gone before—" "Wait," interrupted another mercenary. This one had scales and yellow eyes. "I heard the miners hired Earthborn units last month." The table went silent. The mercenaries looked at each other. "How many?" someone finally asked. "Just 10, stationed on the colony." The 4-armed Juraxian stood up. "I'm out. Find someone else." One by one, the mercenaries left the table. No payment was worth facing humans in battle. The risk was too great. The story of Boundary Station Alpha had spread too far. The legend of Earthborn units had become a weapon more powerful than any gun. Captain Alex Martinez crouched behind the broken remains of a transport ship. 3 suns beat down on the desert planet. Sweat ran down his face inside his helmet. Around him, the 15 soldiers of his Earthborn unit checked their weapons and waited. "Status report," Alex whispered into his comm. "West side is quiet," answered Corporal Lisa Jackson. Her voice was calm despite the danger. "Enemy forces are trying to circle around us." "I see them," said Private Kevin Zhang from his position, on a small hill. "They're using some kind of cloaking tech. Not very good, though. I can see heat waves where they walk." "Hold your fire," Alex ordered. Let them get closer. 2 hours earlier, their ship had landed on this remote planet for emergency repairs. The Black Crest Mercenary Legion had been waiting. It was a perfect ambush. Over 200 of the galaxy's most ruthless killers against 15 humans. The Black Crest commander, a 9-foot-tall Taurian with sharp ridges on his head, watched through special vision equipment. His plan was working. The humans were trapped with no way to call for help. Yet something bothered him. The humans weren't panicking. They weren't even trying to escape. "Sir," his second-in-command reported, "our stealth team is almost in position to attack." "Good," the commander said. "End this quickly." Alex saw the movement in the sand. The enemy was getting close. Too close. He looked at Private Jenny Reyes beside him. She held a small remote control in her hand. "Now," Alex whispered. Jenny pressed the button. The ground erupted in explosions. While retreating to their current position, the humans had planted mines in the sand. The stealth team of the Black Crest was caught in the middle of the trap, Pioneer. "Fire!" Alex shouted. The humans fired their weapons from hidden positions. The Black Crest mercenaries were surprised. They had expected to be the hunters, not the hunted. "How did they know?" the Taurian commander roared. "How did they set traps so quickly?" Then he noticed something strange. The humans were broadcasting. They were sending video of the battle to every mercenary group in the sector. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a message. The battle raged across the desert. The Black Crest had better weapons and armor. They had more soldiers. They had air support. But the humans had something else. They had Earth training. Private Zhang was hit by enemy fire. The energy bolt burned through his leg. He kept shooting until his weapon overheated. Then he switched to his backup gun. Corporal Jackson led a small team around the enemy's right flank. They used the dunes for cover. When they emerged, they were behind the Black Crest's heavy weapons team. 3 grenades silenced the big guns. By nightfall, the Black Crest Legion began to retreat. They left behind their wounded and most of their equipment. Captain Martinez had lost 8 of his 15 soldiers. But the message was sent. Even when outnumbered and outgunned, Earthborn units would make victory too costly to be worth it. "Send the footage to command," Alex told Jenny as they treated the wounded. "Make sure it gets wide distribution." "Already done, sir," she replied. "Every mercenary band in 3 sectors will see what happened here." Word of the battle spread at light speed through mercenary networks. The humans had turned warfare into psychological terror. They didn't just defeat you. They made sure everyone watched it happen. 3 months later, Admiral Eric Davis sat in a meeting with Earth's military leaders. On the screen was a map of human deployments across the galaxy. "The Crixian hegemony has requested Earthborn units for their dispute with the Solari Federation," said General Olivia Grant. She had been promoted after her success in the early campaigns. "They're offering triple our standard rate." "And the Solari?" asked Eric. "They've also requested our services at 5 times the standard rate." The room was silent for a moment. Then Frank Rodriguez, who had once been a council member and was now defense minister, laughed. "So both sides want to hire us to fight against each other and they're competing. To pay us more?" "Exactly," Olivia said with a smile. "And if we decline both offers?" Eric leaned forward. "They'll find a diplomatic solution rather than face each other without Earthborn support. War averted without firing a shot." "Our primary mission was always Earth's security," Rodriguez said. "We've achieved that in ways we never imagined. No one dares threaten a planet that produces such warriors." Later that day, Eric met with Samantha, Kelly, now a colonel, in the officers' lounge of the UES Indomitable. They looked out at the stars through a large window. 10 years ago, we were just trying to earn some alien technology," Eric said. "Now we're preventing wars by simply existing." Samantha nodded. "The ultimate deterrent. No one wants to fight us, so everyone seeks our protection. The psychology of fear," Eric mused. "We didn't plan it, but it works." On a distant mining colony, a small team of 5 Earthborn soldiers stood guard at the main facility. The miners worked without worry. Despite reports of pirate activity in the sector, Boring assignment, said Private Ben Foster as he patrolled the perimeter. Sergeant Maria Chen checked the security monitors. Boring is good. It means our reputation is doing the work for us. I heard the pirates changed course when they learned we were stationed here, Ben said. Didn't even try to attack. Maria nodded. That's the best kind of victory, the one where no one dies. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the long-range sensors. A ship was approaching, not a pirate vessel, but a diplomatic craft, from the Graxian Empire. The ship landed and a single Graxian emerged. These aliens were known for their pride and warrior culture. This one wore the markings of a high commander. I seek the humans, the Graxian said to the colony administrator who met him at the landing pad. The administrator pointed to Maria and Ben, who stood nearby. The Graxian approached them. He was tall and muscular, with 4 arms and tough gray skin. I am War Master Krell of the Graxian Empire. I have come to study your ways. Maria raised an eyebrow. Study our ways? For generations, the Graxians have been the most feared warriors in the galaxy, Krell explained. Now that title belongs to humans. I wish to understand why. Ben looked at Maria, unsure how to respond. There's nothing special about us. Maria said finally, we're just doing our job. No, Krell insisted. There is more. I have seen the recordings of your battles. You fight like no species I have encountered. The War Council has sent me to learn your secrets. Maria thought for a moment. We don't have any secrets. We're just humans. Perhaps that is the secret itself, Krell said. Being human. That night, Maria sent a message to Admiral Davis about the strange visit. His reply was simple. This is how legends grow. Let them wonder. Fear of the unknown is our greatest weapon. Across the galaxy, in bars and meeting halls, mercenaries continued to share stories of Earthborn units, each tale more incredible than the last. How they fought without rest for days. How they used improvised weapons when their guns failed. How they kept fighting even when wounded or dying. And when someone mentioned an upcoming job, the first question was always the same. Will there be Earthborn units involved? If the answer was yes, the room would fall silent. Some would leave, immediately. Others would demand triple pay. The smart ones simply refused the job. The legend had become reality. The reputation was worth more than any weapon. Earthborn units had changed the way the galaxy thought about war itself. 10 years had passed since humans first entered the galactic mercenary market. Now just mentioning Earthborn units was enough to change the outcome of conflicts. Warring planets would seek peace when they learned humans might get involved. Admiral Eric Davis stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, the flagship of Earth's mercenary fleet. The ship was much larger than the old UES Horizon. It carried 500 soldiers and the most advanced weapons Earth could build. Much of that technology had been copied from captured alien equipment. Eric looked out at the stars. He had more, gray in his hair now. Lines around his eyes showed years of command, but he still stood straight and proud in his uniform. Admiral, said a young officer, the representatives have arrived for the meeting. Eric nodded. Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll be there shortly. In the main conference room, leaders from 10 different alien species waited. Some were old allies like the Alaxians. Others had been enemies in past conflicts. All had come to the same conclusion. It was better to have humans as friends than as enemies. Eric entered the room. The aliens stood in respect. Even the proud Graxians, who bowed to no one, showed their respect to the human admiral. Thank you all for coming, Eric said. The Treaty of Mutual Defense is ready for signing. Once completed, Earth will guarantee the security of all member worlds. An Alaxian diplomat spoke up. The cost is high, Admiral Davis. Peace is always expensive, Eric replied. But war costs more. My ships will patrol your borders. My soldiers will train your forces, and the galaxy will know you are under Earth's protection. One by one, the aliens signed the treaty. Each understood what it meant. They were buying something more valuable than weapons or shields. They were buying the fear that came with the words Earthborn units. Later that evening, Eric met with his senior staff in the officers' lounge. Colonel Samantha Kelly was there, along with General Olivia Grant and several others who had been with the program since the beginning. "To peace," Eric said, raising his glass. "Through strength," the others replied, an old military toast. Paul Weber, now a major, laughed. "Who would have thought our most effective weapon would be our reputation?" "It wasn't just reputation," Samantha said. "It was earned through blood." They all grew quiet, remembering friends who had died in distant battles. "The Crixians asked me an interesting question today," Eric said after a moment. "They wanted to know what makes humans different from other species." "What did you tell them?" Olivia asked. "I said we evolved on a death world. Earth tried to kill us with storms, earthquakes, disease, and predators. When nature wasn't trying to kill us, we tried to kill each other. We learned to adapt, to survive, to never give up." Eric looked around at his team. "But that's only part of the answer. The real difference is how we think about war itself." "How so?" asked Samantha. "Other species fight for territory, resources, or honor. They have rules and limits. They stop when the cost becomes too high. Humans—" Eric paused. "Humans fight to win, period. We don't have limits. We use any tactic, any weapon, any sacrifice needed for victory. That's what scares them," Paul said quietly. "Not our strength or technology, but our determination." On the edge of known space at a trading post called Vega Prime, representatives from 24 mercenary companies gathered for their yearly meeting. They shared drinks and war stories. They discussed contracts and territories. A young mercenary, new to the business, asked about humans. The room fell silent. "I heard they can fight for days without sleep," whispered a four-armed Jiraxian after a long pause. "My brother faced them in the Cygnus dispute," added a Marathi commander. "Said they kept fighting even with radiation burning their blood." Is it true they eat their dead enemies?" asked the young mercenary. An old Taurian mercenary, his face scarred from many battles, shook his head. "No, that's just a rumor, but the truth is strange enough." "What is the truth?" the young one asked. "They come from a world that tried to kill them from the moment they evolved. Their planet has stronger gravity than most, making them naturally stronger on other worlds. They evolved as prey animals before becoming predators, so they have both fear and aggression in their blood." The old mercenary took a drink. "But that's not what makes them dangerous. What makes them dangerous is how they think. They don't fight for money, not really. They fight to win, and they're willing to die to make sure that happens." On Earth, in the headquarters of the United Earth Defense Force, a new class of recruits prepared for their first deployment. They were young men and women from different countries, different backgrounds, but all shared the same determination. A veteran sergeant walked in front of them. "You are about to join the most feared fighting force in the galaxy. When you put on that uniform, when you wear the Earth patch on your shoulder, you carry the weight of our reputation." The recruits stood straighter, pride in their eyes. "The aliens think we're special. They think we have some secret training or special abilities. The truth is simpler. We're just humans. But that's enough to make the galaxy tremble." Across the stars, human ships patrolled trade routes once plagued by pirates. Human soldiers guarded colonies once vulnerable to raiders. Human diplomats negotiated treaties backed by the unspoken threat of Earthborn intervention. In his private quarters, Admiral Eric Davis looked at an old photo. It showed the original 100 soldiers who had deployed on that first mission to Boundary Station Alpha. So, many were gone now, but their sacrifice had built something that would last. His computer chimed. A message from Earth. The Defense Council had approved his proposal for a new initiative. They would start accepting aliens into Earthborn units. Not many, just a few, from each allied species. They would learn human tactics, human determination. They would carry that knowledge back to their home worlds. The ultimate export, Eric said to himself. Not our weapons or our technology, but our way of thinking. Outside his window, the stars stretched into infinity. Once, humans had been trapped on a single planet, fighting each other for scraps of territory. Now they were the peacekeepers of the galaxy, All because of a reputation built by soldiers willing to do whatever it took to win. This was why mercenaries fell silent when they heard Earthborn units. Not because humans were stronger or faster or smarter, but because humans were willing to pay any price for victory. In the cold mathematics of galactic mercenary work, no payment was worth facing that kind of enemy. As the old Taurian mercenary had said to the young recruit, there's a saying among our kind. If you must fight, fight with honor. If you must die, die with courage. But if you must face Earthborn unit, run.